Welcome to the holiday season Blockbuster series. This holiday season, I'm going behind the scenes of some of the most beloved holiday movies. If you're new here, welcome. Each week, I create new look using Color Street nail strips, and this holiday season, join me and go behind the scenes to see how these movies were made. If you're interested in unique color combos and want to learn some movie magic facts, I would highly recommend that you hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Are you troubled by strange noises in the night? Do you experience feeling of dread in your basement or attic? Have you or your family member actually seen a spook, specter, or ghost? If that answer is yes, then don't wait another minute. Pick up the phone and call the professionals, Ghostbusters. The fascination with and belief in the paranormal inspired Dan Aykroyd to create Ghostbusters. This was inherited from his father, who wrote the book A History of Ghosts, his mother, who claimed she'd seen ghosts, a grandfather who experimented with the use of radios to contact the dead, and a great-grandfather, a renowned spiritualist. In 1981, he read an article on quantum physics and parapsychology in the Journal of the American Society of Psychic Research, which gave him the idea of trapping ghosts. Aykroyd was also drawn to the idea of modernizing the comedic ghost film of the mid-20th century, made by teams like Abbott Costello, Hold That Ghost in 1941, Bob Hope, The Ghost Breaker in 1940, and the Bowery Boys, Ghost Chasers in 1951. Aykroyd wrote the script intending to star in it alongside Eddie Murphy and his close friend and fellow Saturday Night Live alum John Belushi. Unfortunately, in March of 1982, Belushi sadly passed away. Aykroyd recalled writing one of Belushi's lines when producer and talent agent Bernie Brillstein called to inform him of Belushi's death. He turned to another SNL former castmate, Bill Murray, who agreed to join the project. Aykroyd pitched his concept to Brillstein as three men who chase ghosts and included the sketch of the Marshmallow Man. Aykroyd believed that Ivan Reitman was the logical choice to direct, based on his success with films like Animal House and Stripes. Aykroyd's original 70 to 80-page script treatment was more serious in tone and intended to be scary. Reitman met with Aykroyd in Studio City, Los Angeles, and explained his concept would be impossible to make. Reitman wanted to detail the Ghostbusters' origins before starting their business, saying it was the beginning of the 1980s. Everyone was going into business. Following the meeting, the pair met Harold Ramis at Burbank Studios. Reitman had worked with him on previous films and believed he could better execute the tone he intended for the script than Aykroyd. Reitman also felt Ramis should portray a Ghostbuster. After he read the script, Ramis joined the project immediately. Despite the script requiring considerable changes, Reitman pitched the film to Columbia Pictures executive Frank Price in March of 1983. Price recounted finding the concept funny, but the project itself controversial, as comedians were seen to have a ceiling of profitability. The film would require a big budget due to the special effects and popular cast. Reitman said he could work with $25 to $30 million. Price agreed as long as the film could be released by June of 1984. This left 13 months to complete the film, with no finished script, effects studio, or filming start date. He hired Joe Medjuck and Michael C. Gross as associate producers, having collaborated with them previously. Several titles were considered for the film since Ghostbusters was legally restricted by Universal Studios' owned 1970s children's show, The Ghostbusters. Options included Ghost Stoppers, Ghost Breakers, and Ghost Smashers. Price parted ways with Columbia Pictures early in Ghostbusters production and became the head of Universal Pictures, where he continued the Back to the Future project with Spielberg and Zemeckis. Price then sold the title to Columbia for $500,000 plus 1% of the film's profits. Aykroyd, Ramis, and Reitman began reworking the script. Aykroyd considered himself a kitchen sink writer who created the funny situations and paranormal jargon, while Ramis refined the jokes and dialogue. They wrote separately, then rewrote each other's drafts. Their initial draft was completed in mid-July 1983, with a third and near final draft ready by early August. When Murray later flew to New York to meet Aykroyd and Ramis, he offered little input on the script and his character. Having written for Murphy multiple times before, Ramis said he knew how to handle his character's voice. It was decided early on that Ramis' character would be the brains of Ghostbusters, Aykroyd be the heart, and Murray be the mouth. Aykroyd drew inspiration from fictional archetypes. He says, put Peter Venkman, Raymond Stan, and Egon Spengler together, and you've got the Scarecrow, the Lion, and the Tin Man. Aykroyd's concept called for Ghostbusters to have a boss and be directed into situations. Ramis preferred them to be in control of their own destiny and make their own choices. This led to the development of more distinct identities for the characters. Peter as the cool modern salesman, Ray as the honest enthusiastic technician, and Egon the factual and intellectual. The most difficult part of writing was determining the story's goal, who the villain was and their goal, why ghosts were manifesting, and how a towering Marshmallow Man appeared. The Marshmallow Man was one of the many elaborate creatures in Aykroyd's initial treatment, originally intending to emerge from the East River only 20 minutes into the film. While this process was occurring, Reitman was searching for a special effects studio for the film, eventually recruiting Richard Edlund in the same 2-week span. The film had its 3 main cast members, but there were still more roles to fill. Ernie Hudson went through approximately 5 auditions for the character of Winston. According to him, an earlier version of the script gave Winston a larger role as an Air Force demolition expert with an elaborate backstory. Excited about the part, he agreed to the job for half of his usual salary. But then the night before shooting began, he was given a new script with a greatly reduced role. Reitman told him the studio wanted to expand on Murray's part. Aykroyd has said that this role is intended for Eddie Murphy, although Reitman refuted this. Daryl Hannah, Denise Crosby, and Julia Roberts auditioned for the role of Dana Barrett, but it was Sigourney Weaver who attracted the filmmakers' attention. There was resistance to casting her because of the generally serious role she had played in Alien and The Year of Living Dangerously. Weaver revealed her comedic background, developed at the Yale School of Drama, and began walking on all fours, howling like a dog. It was her suggestion Dana became possessed by Zool, and Weaver also changed the character's occupation from that of a model to a musician, saying that Dana could be somewhat strict, but you know she has a soul because she plays the cello. John Candy was offered the role of Louis Tully. Candy told Reitman he didn't understand the character and suggested portraying Tully with a German accent and multiple German shepherds. The filmmakers felt there was already enough dogs in the film. They and Candy passed on casting. Reitman had previously worked with Rick Moranis and sent him the script. He accepted the role an hour later. Moranis developed many aspects of his character, including him being an accountant and the ad-libbed lengthy speech at Tully's party. Annie Potts was cast as the Ghostbusters secretary Janine. As she arrived for her first day of filming, Reitman rushed Potts into the current scene. She quickly changed out of her street clothes and borrowed a pair of glasses worn by the set dresser. Her character ended up wearing glasses throughout the film. Principal photography began in New York City on October 28, 1983. During the first day, Reitman brought Murray to set, still unsure if he had read the script. Filming in New York lasted for about 6 weeks, finishing just before Christmas. Reitman was conscious that they had to complete the New York phase before they encountered inhospitable December weather. At the time, choosing to shoot in New York City was considered risky. In the early 80s, many saw the city as synonymous with fiscal disaster and violence, and Los Angeles was seen to be the center of the entertainment industry. In a 2014 interview, Reitman said he chose New York because I wanted the film to be my New York movie. As Reitman was working with comedians, he encouraged improvisation, adapting multiple takes to keep cast inserts that worked, but directing them back to the script. A scene was shot in Central Park West with extras chanting "Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters" before the name had been cleared. This building at 55 Central Park West served as the home of Weaver's character and the setting for the Ghostbusters' climactic battle with Gozer. The art director added extra floors and embellishments using matte paintings, models, and digital effects to create the focal point of the ghostly activity. During shooting of the final scene at the building, city officials allowed the closure of the adjacent streets during rush hour, affecting traffic across the city. It was said that from the top of the building, you could see traffic queuing all the way to Brooklyn. Other locations included New York City Hall, the New York Public Library, the Lincoln Center for Performing Arts, Columbus Circle, the Irving Trust Building on Fifth Avenue, and Tavern on the Green. Firehouse Hook and Ladder Company 8 was used as the Ghostbusters headquarters. Columbia University allowed its Halfmeyer Hall to stand in for the fictional Weaver Hall, on the condition the university not be identified by name. Filming moved to Los Angeles, resuming just after Christmas and before New Year's. Due to the film's use of practical effects, they needed skilled technicians who mainly resided in the city, and sound stages that were non-existent in New York. Despite this New York setting, most of Ghostbusters was filmed on location in Los Angeles or on sets in Burbank Studios. Location scouts searched for buildings that could replicate the interiors of buildings being filmed in New York. Reitman tried to use the interior of Hook and Ladder 8, but was unable to take it over long enough because it was an active fire station. The interior firehouse shots were taken instead at the decommissioned Firehouse number 23 in downtown Los Angeles. The building design, while common in New York, was a rarity in Los Angeles. An archival photograph of an active crew in Firehouse number 23 from 1915 was hung in the background of the Ghostbusters office. Principal photography concluded at the end of January 1984. The short production schedule and looming June 8, 1984 release date meant that Reitman was editing the film while shooting. There was often only time for a few takes. Reitman sometimes found filming effects-laden film frustrating, as the special effects had to be storyboarded and filmed in advance. There was no option to go back and film new scenes. Editor Sheldon Kahn completed the first cut of the film 3 weeks after filming concluded. The final cut of the film runs for 105 minutes. The Ghostbusters score was composed by Elmer Bernstein and performed by a 72-person Hollywood Studios Symphony Orchestra at the Village in West Los Angeles, California. It was orchestrated by David Spear and Bernstein's son, Peter. Reitman wanted a grounded, realistic score and did not want the music to tell the audience when something was funny. In a 1985 interview, Bernstein described Ghostbusters as the most difficult score he had written, finding it challenging to balance the film's varying comedic and serious tones. Early on, Reitman and Bernstein discussed the idea that Ghostbusters would feature popular music at specific points to complement Bernstein's original score. This included Magic by Mick Smiley, which played during the scene when the ghosts were released from the Ghostbusters headquarters. Bernstein's main theme for Ghostbusters was later replaced by Ray Parker Jr.'s Ghostbusters. Bernstein personally disliked the use of these songs, particularly Magic, but he said it was hard to argue with something like Ghostbusters when it is up at the top 10 on the charts. Music was required for a montage in the middle of the film, and I Want a New Drug by Huey Lewis and the News was used as a temporary placeholder because of the appropriate tempo. Reitman would later replace it with Parker Jr.'s Ghostbusters, which had a similar riff to match the montage. Huey Lewis was approached to compose the film's theme, but was already committed to work on Back to the Future. Richard Edlund's previous work, supernatural horror film Poltergeist, served as a reference for the ghost designs in Ghostbusters. Special effects artist Steve Johnson sculpted the gluttonous, slimy green ghost, then known as the Onion Head Ghost, on set, due to the puppet's unpleasant smell. The creature wasn't given the name Slimer until the 1986 animated television series The Real Ghostbusters. The Slimer design took 6 months and cost approximately $300,000. Aykroyd tasked his friend, referred to as the Viking, to design the Marshmallow Man, asking for a combination of the Michelin Man and the Pillsbury Doughboy in a sailor hat. The Marshmallow Man outfit was built and portrayed by an actor and special effect artist, Bill Bryan, who modeled his walk on Godzilla. There were 18 foam costumes, each costing between $25,000 and $30,000. There were 3 different heads for the suit, built from foam and fiberglass, with different expressions and movements controlled by cable mechanisms. The costume was filmed against a scale model to finish the effect. The marshmallow raining down on the crowd after it's destroyed was shaving cream. 75 pounds of shaving cream. The original library ghost puppet was considered too scary for younger audiences and was repurposed for use in Fright Night. Randy Cook was responsible for creating the quarter-scale stop-motion puppet of Gozer's minions, Zool and Vince, the terror dogs, when in motion. The model was heavy and unwieldy, and it took nearly 30 hours to film it moving across a 30-foot stage for the scene when it pursues Louis Tully across the street. For Gozer herself, the actress wore red contacts that caused her a great deal of pain. She also wore a harness to move around the set. Hardware consultant Stephen Dane was responsible for designing most of the Ghostbusters' iconic equipment, including the proton pack used to wrangle the ghost traps, and their vehicle, the Ectomobile. The equipment had to be designed and built in 6 weeks before filming began in September 1983. Inspired by a military-used flamethrower, the proton pack consists of a handheld proton stream firing wand connected by a hose to a backpack that is said to contain a nuclear accelerator. The technology was designed not to be over fancy or sleek, emphasizing the characters' scientific backgrounds combined with the homemade nature of the equipment. In the script, Aykroyd described the Ghostbusters' clothing and vehicle as bearing a "no" symbol with a ghost trapped in it, crediting the Viking with the original concept. The final design fell to Michael C. Gross, who had volunteered to serve as the art director. As the logo would be required for props and sets, it needed to be finalized quickly. Gross worked with Boss film artist and creative designer consultant Brent Boats. Boats drew the final concept. According to Gross, 2 versions of the logo exist, with one having Ghostbusters written across the diagonal part of the sign. Gross did not like how it looked and flipped the diagonal bar to read top left to bottom right instead, but then later removed the wording. According to Gross, this is the correct version of the sign that is used throughout Europe. The bottom left to top right version is used in the United States, as that was the design of the "no" symbol there. The premiere of Ghostbusters took place on June 7, 1984 in Westwood, California, before its wide release following day across 1,300 theaters. During its opening weekend in the United States and Canada, the film earned $13.6 million, ahead of premiering horror comedy Gremlins and the adventure film Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. The gross increased to $23.1 million during its first week, becoming the first major success of the studio since Tootsie. The film remained number 1 for 7 consecutive weeks, grossing $146.5 million. Ghostbusters is considered one of the first blockbusters and is credited to refining the term to effectively create a new genre that mixed comedy, science fiction, horror, and thrills. Ghostbusters also confirmed the merchandising success of Star Wars was not a fluke. A successful, recognizable brand can be used to launch spin-offs and helping establish a business model in the film industry that has since become status quo. Once Ghostbusters' popularity was clear, the studio aggressively cultivated its profit, translating it into merchandising and other media such as television, expanding its profitability lifetime long after the film had left theaters. Ghostbusters was turned into a special effects stage show at Universal Studios Florida, which ran from 1990 to 1996. Based mainly on the film's final battle with Gozer. The 2019 Halloween Horror Nights event at Universal Studios Hollywood and Florida hosted a haunted maze attraction featuring locations, characters, and ghosts from the film. The film has also been homaged or explicitly referred across a variety of medias, including film, television, and video games. So next time, if there's something weird and it don't look good, who you gonna call? I am afraid no ghost. Thank you for joining me on this Halloween adventure. Hurry back, and we'll see you for the next one.